Mr. Wagner, any position regarding bail in these matters?
Your Honor, the state's asking for a significant cash bond. I think $50,000 is appropriate. As the court just noted, that the defendant has 8 open cases, three of them being felonies, with the condition that he's not supposed to be out between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. When this incident occurred. He had a loaded handgun on him, and he knew that he was not supposed to possess a handgun. He obviously, an officer ended up getting shot as a result of this incident, where he was fleeing from the police and was tackled. While he was being interviewed by the police, he stated that he had pulled his handgun out to try and get rid of it because he knew that he wasn't supposed to have a handgun, and that he was hoping to be shot by police rather than face incarceration for possessing a handgun. I think that with this kind of conduct, the fact that he's got so many open cases already, the fact that he was violating all of his bail conditions at the time of this incident, I think that a substantial cash bond is necessary and appropriate to assure his appearance in court. Thank you.
And Mr. Woodard?
Judge, obviously, he does have a number of pending cases. However, Judge, I think, there needs to be, in one sense, and I say this respectfully after speaking to the family and everything, our press, our local press here has really done a number on this young man. They have claimed that he shot the officer who was injured. And, no one wants to see anyone shot, and especially those who are carrying out their duty to protect our community. So, but the point of the matter is he didn't shoot anyone. And the gun that he had was not fired. But yet we see in the paper, without any clarification by the police department, that Mr. Richardson did not shoot a police officer. And it's based on my discussion with my client, it may have been an inadvertent accident by an officer on the scene who did that. And that doesn't take away the fact that he ran, and that doesn't take away the fact that he wanted to pull out a weapon to, in effect, to have a suicide by, as they say, by cop. But the point of the matter is he did not fire that weapon at anyone, let alone wanting to fire a weapon at a police officer.
And Mr. Wagner, I should give you an opportunity to reply to the arguments Mr. Woodard made.
I would just say that, there has been a missed court appearance. There's been non-compliance with the bail monitoring program. He has posted cash bond in the past. So I don't think that he's doing as well on bond as Mr. Woodard would like to relate to the court here today. Notwithstanding all of the open cases that he's picking up. And of course, the serious nature of this case, Mr. Woodard says that his gun wasn't used to shoot anybody, or that Mr. Richardson didn't shoot this officer. And that might be true, but in any event, the conduct still is extremely serious whenever you have a handgun and it's involved in an incident with officers who are also carrying handguns. It doesn't make for a recipe for success. I think somebody's liable to get shot, regardless of who's doing the shooting. And again, that's still under investigation at this time. We do know that the officer was shot, and it is still under investigation, but there's at least probable cause that Mr. Richardson was involved in this incident.
I'd have to agree with Mr. Wagner that all indications are that Mr. Richardson hasn't done super well on bond. It's relatively rare to get to the point where somebody is on their 10th pending case, and I think that's where he is at this point. 3 felony cases, 5 misdemeanors, and now 1 of each being added to the pile. This is not a situation where there was some sort of a spree that's alleged to have occurred in the past and the state filed 10 complaints at once or something. There's been an evolution here. There's been charges, release on bail, many efforts at signature bonds, many efforts at modest amounts of cash bond. I think we've now fairly well cleaned up that a only partially successful pretrial services referral. And Mr. Richardson continues to pick up cases. Mr. Woodard makes the point, it's a valid point, and it's an important point, that Mr. Richardson is not alleged in this criminal complaint to have shot a police officer. In fact, I don't even read this complaint really to allege that he fired a gun. And that makes a difference. That changes the complexion of the case a lot. I suppose if he were charged with an attempted first-degree intentional homicide or some kind of a reckless endangerment offense for popping off rounds in the direction of a police officer, we'd be talking about numbers with likely a greater number of zeros than any of the numbers that have been discussed here today. So that's I think recognized in the state's argument, but it also needs to be recognized by the rest of us that that's not the charge. That the charges here are essentially being on State Street when he is alleged to have a bail condition not to be outside of his residence, having resisted the police, and having this firearm in his possession. I also want to caution, because I think it's appropriate to do it, that when I make those statements, I'm making statements about what's alleged in the criminal complaint. I'm not saying Mr. Richardson did it. I don't know who did what. At this point in the proceeding, nothing has been proven. It's the beginning of the case. It's where we figure out what's a necessary bail in order to get people to court and assure compliance with bail conditions. I think Mr. Richardson has proven himself to be not a great bail risk and somebody who needs to have a substantial cash bail. I'm not persuaded that $50,000 is the appropriate amount of bail in this case, taking into account all those considerations. But again, I think it needs to be pretty significant. I'm going to set cash bail in the misdemeanor case at $1,000. I'm going to set it in the felony case at $15,000. That's a significant escalation from the something over 1,000 that he's been required to post in the earlier cases, but I think recognizes what the conduct is that's actually alleged in the complaint, as opposed to what might appear at first blush.